believe that all innocent life is precious and sacred, and as governor, I have pledged to do everything in my power to protect it. But if death is determined when a heart stops beating, then doesn't a beating heart indicate life?
This is about, we determine death when a heart stops beating, and therefore I believe that life is when a heart is beating, and I am not, I don't want to do anything to stop a beating heart. I'm pro-life.
It is no secret that Governor Kim Reynold is pro-life and proudly defends pro-life. However, pro-life isn't just talking about the unborn child. Pro-life extends to all stages of life, from birth to death. Governor Kim Reynold, you had the choice to protect and save lives. You pledged to be pro-life. However, when it concerns communities of color during this pandemic, you did just the opposite. You never enforced an adequate COVID-19 response, such as a strict stay-at-home order, mask mandate, and proper testing, and you continuously defied medical advice. You left it up to Iowans to choose for themselves without giving any special consideration to how that affected BIPOC communities and elderly folks. You proudly claim to be pro-life, but are you really? What about the heartbeats of those communities, of those members of society? What about the countless medical workers who worked overtime while risking their personal lives and sacrificing their mental and physical health because you failed to follow what science has proven in the past? Governor Kim Reynold, when it comes down to it, if you are pro-life, then act accordingly. Otherwise, get the hell out and let someone else do the job.
So when COVID-19 started popping up in the US and we started to learn how the virus spread, many of us knew that the food processing and meatpacking workers were at high risk. Workers work in very close proximity, often facing one another. Many drive to work together, eat lunch together, and are packed into very small locker rooms. How would these companies protect our parents? It became very clear that they didn't have any intentions of actually doing that, which, to be honest, was not a surprise. That workers were getting sick in pretty much every plant across the state, and in almost every instance, management was explicitly trying to keep that information a secret. There was no transparency, and workers were being told to not talk about the virus or about any cases that they had heard about. Workers told me that they were scared. They were scared to get sick, but they were also scared to lose their jobs. They wanted something to happen, but didn't want to risk their livelihoods.
Once the virus is introduced into this type of an environment, it's very difficult to contain.
To me, this was all intentional. This is because they don't care about their workers and are willing to let them die in order to maintain their level of productivity. Workers died so that the company and the CEOs could continue to make money. Had these powerful companies shut down and established true safety precautions, workers would not have died. Meatpacking cities and towns would not have been major hotspots for the virus, and fewer of our neighbors would have passed away.
Don't the government already got a grave with my name on it? Haven't. I've been to so many mass memorials like the one after AIDS hit, or the headstoneless cemetery visits after slavery. Didn't I write enough eulogies after Ebola during the 1918 influenza? Were those deaths not enough? Didn't America not let us die then? Won't they let us die again and again and again? Doesn't it always end in death? For us, for me, won't I die just to be written out of history? They make us U.S. history. They make us disappear. They made us go to work, but didn't make them wear a mask. They sent us back to school. They prove, even with the loss of lives, they haven't learned their lesson. They fail us every time. They fail us every time. Kim, how many more black bodies are you going to sacrifice?
5,470 people, 5,470 families who
who have been healing and learning to continue living on without their loved one in 2021. But here today, I want to give my condolences to the families of the people who have passed due to COVID. And late last year, my uncle was one of the 60 people incarcerated in Florida to have contracted COVID-19 and not live to tell his tale or his experience. Iowans every day are battling this pandemic with little to no government support, and instead, with fear in hand instead of healing, instead of an idea of how to survive in this state, many of us call home. But I ask, what is home when the people who make it whole are missing? Here today, I stand to advocate for those we have all lost due to inaction and neglect. More than 3,891 people have been buried, and still, Governor Reynolds and other elected officials continue to constantly choose chaos instead of working to be a part of the solution, and that is not okay.
I will be reading a speech and poem by Iowans. I am a non-binary, neurodivergent, disabled person. I am homebound and live alone with my cat. Many disabled folks I know are either in similar situations, live in a home, or forced to live with people that harm them. Many of us struggle in poverty due to restrictions on how much assets and money we're allowed to have in order to keep our benefits that keep us alive. Very few of us have the health to work. Many of us are under the age of 64. Who cares if one more life goes out, but if there's millions of other lives? We care. We care even if the state doesn't. When the pandemic hit, disabled folks predicted a lot of what transpired, and because we are often homebound, we had techniques and ideas on how to help others navigate this new reality. But instead of listening, society triaged us last. We cried out at the injustice. We demanded equitable triage, any pandemic response that would stop the spread. Who cares if one more life flickers and dies if there's millions of others? We care. We care even if the state doesn't. We wept yet another black disabled person when yet another black disabled person died, when yet another disabled immigrant person died, when another indigenous disabled person died. We wept as we watched our lives snuffed out by a careless state who would decide the economy mattered more than the most vulnerable. Who cares if one more life flickers and dies if there's millions of others? We care. We care even if the state doesn't. Thousand dead and rising. Who will hear their stories? Who will honor their memory? We should mourn. We will mourn. We must.